Hey everyone, it's your guy back in the studio. No filter, no corporate spin, just straight talk. Today we are diving into a story that is absolutely fascinating, not because it's about China, but because it's about power money, leverage, and what happens when a giant corporation finally decides to stop playing the landlord's game. This happened in Shenzhen, and the main player is Tencent, China's tech behemoth, the company behind WeChat gaming empires that print cash, and basically half the internet over there. And let me tell you, this story has layers like an onion or a Shrek movie, but with more spreadsheets. Now let's set the scene. It's the fall of 2025. Tencent drops an internal company-wide email. Every single employee gets it announcing a pay structure adjustment for their entry level and junior staff. Sounds like good news, right? Raises for the little guys, a pat on the back from corporate. But here's where it gets wild within days. I am talking less than a week. The landlords around Keyuan Science Park, that's the tech hub where Tencent had its massive campus catch wind of this like shark smelling blood in the water. And not just any sharks, these are great whites with spreadsheets. One Tencent employee posts on social media that his landlord texted him that very night, not the next day, not a week later, but the same evening, saying the next quarter's rent is going up 15%, 15%. That's not a cost of living adjustment. That's a stick up. The guy screenshots it, throws it into their 300 plus colleague group chat, and the whole thing erupts like a volcano. People start piling on. Some say their landlords did the exact same thing. And someone even pastes a direct message where the landlord writes, and I quote, "Hey, your company just gave you a raise, so let's all share the joy," right? Share the joy. That's like your neighbor seeing you get a bonus and then charging you for parking on your own street. That's straight up vulture behavior, and we'll come back to that because it's the heart of this whole saga. Now, let's get granular. Take a game designer who's been working in Keyuan for 5 years. He's the kind of guy who builds the virtual worlds we all escape into after a long day. He sits down, pulls out his phone calculator, and does the math carefully. This salary tweak puts an extra 900 yuan in his pocket every month. That's roughly 125 bucks in real money. Not Monopoly cash, but on that exact same day, his landlord informs him that his monthly rent is jumping from 6,200 yuan to 7,000 yuan. Let's convert that for my American audience. He was paying about 860 bucks a month. Now he's paying around 970. So after the raise and the rent hike, he's actually losing about $55 a month. That's not a raise, that's a redistribution of wealth from his wallet to his landlords. He tells this to a friend who's a financial journalist, and the friend just pauses, probably processing the absurdity. Then drops this absolutely savage line, "Man, that raise didn't even have time to get warm in your pocket before someone else reached in and grabbed it." That's the kind of quote that sticks with you. And spoiler alert, that was just the opening act. The real storm hadn't even hit yet. This was the calm before the hurricane. Fast forward a few months. One random morning, dozens of moving company trucks, huge full-size rigs, the kind you see hauling cross-country, pull up outside Building C of Keyuan Science Park. Tencent staff, all wearing their company badges, are wheeling out boxes. Monitors, office chairs, whiteboards, you name it. Elevator lines stretch forever. People are bumping into each other. It's controlled chaos. Like a fire drill, but with actual moving vans downstairs. There's this little cafe that sells iced Americanos for 38 yuan a pop. That's about 5 bucks and 30 cents, which for a coffee is pretty steep even by New York or San Francisco standards. The owner, a woman who'd been running that shop for 7 years of early mornings and late night stands at the door watching the madness. And she asks the security guard, "Why are so many people leaving today?" And the guard just casually drops this bomb. They're relocating, moving to Dakin Bay. They built their own island over there. She doesn't say another word. She just stares. That cafe at its peak was selling 400 cups a day. And her customer base was almost entirely Tencent people, coders pulling all-nighters fueled by caffeine, product managers coming out of marathon meetings, artists taking a midday breather. Now those folks are heading out by the truckload, and she knows exactly what that means for her bottom line. It's not just a move. It's an extinction event for her business. So where the hell are they going? Dakin Bay, a man-made peninsula that was literally dredged out of the ocean. A reclaimed land project that sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. Back in 2019, Tencent dropped 8.52 billion yuan. That's over $1.2 billion to grab 809,000 square meters of land. That's roughly 200 acres, which is massive for a city as packed as Shenzhen. For perspective, that's about the size of 150 football fields. Total planned investment, 31.9 billion yuan, or roughly $4.4 billion. That's not pocket change, that's building a small city. They're building their very own purpose-built campus. They call Penguin Island Yay because their mascot is a penguin. and they went all in on the branding at the time. A lot of people in the business press thought Tencent had lost its collective mind. I read some of the headlines, they were calling it pony mass folly, and I don't blame them. Let me put that number in perspective for you. Tencent was paying over 1 billion yuan in annual rent at Keyuan. That's north of $140 million a year. 31.9 billion yuan covers 30 years of that rent. So on paper, spending 30 years worth of rent to build your own campus looks like financial suicide. It's like buying a house when you could just rent an apartment forever except the rent keeps going up. And the apartment keeps shrinking. But if you step back and look at it from Pony Ma's perspective, he's the founder and chairman, one of the richest guys in Asia, a guy who didn't get rich by making dumb bets. That 31.9 billion wasn't just about land, it was about buying control. It was about cutting the leash, it was about saying we're not tenants anymore, we're landowners. And in the world of real estate, that shift is everything. Here's the backstory that really gets under my skin, and I think ITEL get under yours too. For over a decade, the landlords around Keyuan had this unspoken, almost cartel-like playbook. Raise rents every 2 years, steady at 10 to 15%, like clockwork. You could set your watch by it, and here's the kicker: every single time Tencent gave its employees a raise, those landlords picked up the signal like they had insider info and dropped a new rent. Notice within days. I am not talking about a coincidence. I'm talking about a pattern so predictable, it could be a business strategy. It became a predictable pattern. Over time, Tencent realized this insane, almost absurd truth. Every dollar they put into employee salaries was funneling straight into the landlords' pockets. They were busting their backs to innovate, create profit, and dominate global markets, but in reality, they were just dressing up Keyuan's property owners. They were building their empire on someone else's foundation, and that foundation kept getting more expensive. It's like being a farmer and realizing the guy who owns the land takes most of your harvest, and you're doing all the work. Now, 31.9 billion sounds like a king's ransom, but here's how an American business mind looks at it. That's a capital expenditure, not an operating expense, a 10-year lease at Keyuan. That's 10 billion yuan in pure, unrecoverable cost. You might as well burn that cash in a barrel, but this 31.9 billion investment buys them 800,000 square meters of land and 3 million square meters of buildings. That's over 32 million square feet. This is a super campus that can house 80,000 employees. That's the size of a small town. Break down the land cost. And it comes to about 4,200 yuan per square meter. That's roughly 585 bucks per square meter, which in Shenzhen real estate terms is practically stealing. In Manhattan, you'd pay 10 times that for a broom closet. And why did Shenzhen give them that deal? Because 3 years earlier, Huawei's terminal division literally picked up and moved to Dongguan because they ran out of room. Shenzhen lost billions in tax revenue, lost a major employer, lost the prestige of having a global tech giant headquartered there. And they were not about to make that mistake again. So they gave Tencent a massive chunk of reclaimed land. Keep Tencent, keep their supply chain, keep their talent, and most importantly, keep those tax dollars flowing. Shenzhen did the math, and they came out ahead too. That's a classic American-style negotiation. Both sides walk away with something they want. It's a win-win, but only if you have the leverage to make it happen. By early 2026, Tencent starts the phased relocation. The first wave is about 28,000 people. That's a small city's worth of workers moving from Keyuan Science Park to Dakin Bay, about 30 kilometers away. That's roughly 18 miles, which in American terms is a decent commute, but they're completely uprooting. Buildings C, D, E, and F4 towers, 150,000 square meters of office space, which is about 1.6 million square feet, emptied out practically overnight. Keyuan was once called the #1 building for China's gaming industry. It's where Tencent's interactive entertainment division birthed mega hits like Honor of Kings and Game for Peace, games that generate billions in revenue globally. At its peak, those 4 buildings had 15,000 people working simultaneously, 15,000. And 600 basement parking spots were fought over like Black Friday doorbusters. People who scored one would post it on social media like they won the lottery. But by spring 2026, those spots sat empty. The office occupancy rate dropped from a rock-solid 95% plus to roughly 90%. On paper, that's just a 5-point dip, but the real picture is much uglier because most of that remaining 90% are leases that haven't expired yet. Once those roll off, vacancies are going to spike even higher. The most direct hit: rent. Keyuan's premium office space once hit 170 to 180 yuan per square meter per month. That's about 24 to 25 bucks. Now listings are generally down to 100 to 120 yuan, say $14 to $17, and the worst spots are slashed to 60 or 70 yuan, about 8 to 10 bucks. With generous rent-free periods thrown in, before 1 month free was the max. Now they're offering 3 months up front just to get anyone in the door. That's desperate. One commercial real estate agent put it in brutally honest terms. Before, when you called about Keyuan space, dead answer like take it or leave it, there's a line behind you. Now they pick up and say, bro, let's add WeChat. I'll send you the listings. We've got deals. That is a complete reversal of power. The hunter has become the hunted. The ground level changes are even more visceral. That cafe that dared to charge 38 yuan for an iced Americano. They could do that because Tencent staff worked till midnight and didn't blink at spending $5 on a coffee. Now those storefronts are plastered with 4 words, prime location for transfer. That's real estate speak for we're desperate, that 38 yuan coffee joint, 2 months after Tencent left. They put up a 9 yuan 9 promo poster that's about $1.40 held on for 1 more month and then shut down for good. I mean, they really tried, but without those caffeine craving coders, there was no lifeline. The residential market also cracked wide open. Take a 50 square meter 1-bedroom in Daekong Newtown, that's about 538 square feet. Peak rent hit 6,500 yuan a month, about $900. And landlords played hardball, no bargaining, take it or leave it. Now it's listed at 4,000 yuan, roughly $550. And people still hesitate. Half-month vacancies are the norm. Rents within a 1-kilometer radius dropped 20 to 25% across the board, basically back to 2019 levels. A real estate agent who'd worked the Keyuan area for 8 years posted this on his feed. We used to think Keyuan rents were high because the land was valuable. Now we get it. It was valuable because of those tens of thousands of high-income people. Once they leave, the price collapses like someone yanked the bottom block out of a Jenga tower. That's not an analyst, that's a guy who sells leases for a living. And he's dead on. He's seen the boom and now he's living through the bust. Now, flip the camera to Dakin Bay's Penguin Island and it's a completely different universe. The first batch of relocating employees posted photos online, some show ocean views from their dorm windows. Others show off cafeteria trays with what looks like legit good food, and sometime their walk from home to the office. 8 minutes, 8 minutes. That's shorter than the time it takes to make a cup of coffee. The captions all read pretty much the same, used to commute an hour and a half each way. Now it's a 10-minute stroll, used to pay 6,000 in rent. Now it's 2,000, let's convert that. They went from paying about $830 a month to about $275. That's a game changer for anyone's budget. That's the difference between eating ramen and eating steak. Tencent built about 4,000 penguin apartments on the island, 41 square meters each, fully furnished. Appliances included 9 out of 10 units with sea views, renting for 2,000 to 3,000 yuan, about 275 to 415 bucks, which is 30 to 40% cheaper than comparable long-term apartments nearby. Employees are saving 1 to 2,000 yuan a month. That's 140 to 280 bucks in invisible income every year. One netizen summed it up in a way that's almost poetic. Tencent just cut out the middleman lord and pocketed the difference straight for their people. That's efficiency, that's vertical integration. That's capitalism working the way it's supposed to. But here's the really brilliant move, and this is where Tencent plays 4-dimensional chess. It's not just about saving on rent. They locked in almost all employee spending meals, coffee, gym, socializing, entertainment, inside their own campus before at Keyuan. Every dollar a worker spent was feeding surrounding businesses and landlords. That's leakage. That's money flowing out of the system. Now, on Penguin Island, when employees eat at the campus cafeteria, sign up for the campus gym, or shop at the campus retail strip, every single transaction stays inside Tencent's own ecosystem. That's vertical integration at its finest. Tencent used to generate profit, employees spent, and landlords and merchants skimmed off the top. Now Tencent has brought the whole chain in-house. All the meat stays in their own pot. They're not just a tech company anymore. They're a mini city-state. They're like a sovereign nation with their own currency, their own housing, their own economy. It's the ultimate moat. Meanwhile, over in Nanshan, Keyuan is going through a long, slow, painful ebb. All those businesses that revolved around Tencent overpriced restaurants, premium apartments, packed parking lots, suddenly lost their anchor. Those small shops, landlords and agents who lived off Tencent employees are now scrambling for new lifelines. But here's the flip side, and this is worth noting for regular workers still in Nanshan who aren't at Tencent. The company's departure has actually given them some breathing room. Rents are lower, food is cheaper, elevators aren't jammed, and parking spots are actually available. Prices that were inflated to the sky by big tech wallets are finally settling back to earth. One young guy working at another tech company in Nanshan said, a bowl of noodles used to cost over 40 yuan, about 560 now. It's just over 30, about 420, still not cheap, but at least it's not ridiculous. Keyuan is slowly turning from Tencent's private annex into just another office complex. The stores sticking around are mostly affordable fast food joints and convenience stores serving locals, less hustle and bustle for sure, but prices are back to something resembling normal. It's like a gold rush town after the vein runs dry. The boom is over, but the community adapts or dies. Now here's the part that really gets under my skin, not because it's about China, but because it's a universal economic truth. When an entire district leans so hard on a single giant company and a single high-income demographic, the whole structure turns fragile. When the big dog's around, everyone feels like they're cashing in landlords, cafe owners, parking garages, everyone. But the moment that dog leaves, you realize that prosperity was just a sandcastle built on a foundation of sand. Tencent spent 31.9 billion yuan to build an island and pull itself out of the rental rat race. And Keyuan's landlords, they spent over a decade getting comfortable with that passive rent income. And now their tenants are gone, their buildings are empty, rents have been slashed, and they're back to square one. That's the kind of disruption that keeps CFOs up at night. It's the kind of story that makes you think about your own city, your own job. Your own landlord, a business owner there told me, and I'm paraphrasing, now Keyuan's food joints are a revolving door, one closes. Another opens, the new place barely finishes its 2-month renovation, sees no customers, and slaps up a transfer sign. Even the property managers are panicking. They used to be strict, no takeout deliveries allowed to keep up appearances and maintain that premium vibe. Now they're telling merchants, do whatever you want, we don't care, just stay. The biggest problem Tencent left behind isn't just empty office floors. It's that the entire Nanshan Keyuan microeconomy for the past decade was built around Tencent rent, prices, wages, all tied together in this fixed ecosystem. Once Tencent pulled out, that ecosystem hit a hard dead end. A security guard who'd worked at Keyuan for 10 years stared at the empty lobby across the way and just said, man, this place used to be so packed I'd get annoyed. Now it's so quiet it feels weird. I don't know. It's just different. And that's the kind of plain-spoken truth that hits harder than any analyst report. It's not a statistic. It's a human feeling. It's the sound of a ghost town being born. Yeah, different. Nobody did anything wrong. Tencent made a smart business decision. Landlords played the game they always played, and the market just adjusted, but everything changed. The ground shifted, the rules were rewritten, and the people who didn't see it coming are left holding the bag. So what do you guys think? Is this a cautionary tale about over-reliance on one employer? Or is it just the natural evolution of a maturing company? Is this what happens when corporations become cities? I actually want to hear your take on this. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get a conversation going. All right, that's the full breakdown for today. No cuts. No shortcuts, no sugarcoating. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.